Welcome to the Nano podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernlin, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey through the world of nano companies. For the past decade, I've talked to thousands of business owners across various industries. It's been an enlightening experience revealing the vast tapestries of entrepreneurship and innovation that thrives beneath the surface of mainstream media coverage. Each week, I will interview different leaders of nano-cap publicly traded companies to learn about their history, what they do now, and their future. As a reminder, none of this information is financial advice, and it is all for entertainment purposes only. Let's start this week's episode. Hi, everyone. This week we have Joseph Pandolfino, the CEO and founder of Cabbacis, stock ticker CABI. Cabbacis is a tobacco alternative smoking product to help you quit your tobacco or nicotine addictions. Joseph, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So I look back and it looks like almost back to like 1992, I think it started, is when you first kind of discovered the category of alternative tobacco products, alternative smoking products in like the checkout line of a store. Can you tell me a little bit more about just kind of the genesis of your first company you're working on that was in this field?
Sure. That was started 1993. It was a New York State tobacco distributor. And I actually saw these herbal cigarettes at a health food store and was intrigued by them and looked into them. And they were nicotine free, but the reason they were nicotine free is that they had no tobacco. They had herbs like jasmine and ginseng. And our company start selling those. They were actually manufactured in England. And, after getting them in the market, smokers were contacting us stating that they used the product to, smoke less and actually quit smoking. The problem is there was issues with the taste and aroma. Not being tobacco, it was a taste and aroma that, far majority of smokers were not accustomed to. So that led to us genetically engineering tobacco to block nicotine biosynthesis. And we actually funded research at North Carolina State University back in 1998. And some brands were created down the line with this tobacco that had about 95% less nicotine than conventional brands. I sub-licensed it to a member of Big Tobacco, and they had brands out for a few years called Quest. The issue with the tobacco back then is that North Carolina State did the initial transformation on burley tobacco. And burley tobacco, in most American brands, burley consists of only 20% of the tobacco. Most of it is flue-cured. So there were some taste issues with that, those initial products.
And so let's take a step back. So you were just out of college. How did you find this herbal supplier in like the UK? It's not like they were in the phone book or something. So like,
yeah, no, actually, I was in my last semester of MBA school, and they were in England. It took a little. They're still in business, Honey Rose Products. It took a little digging, and I contacted them, and then took a trip over there shortly thereafter, and they gave me the exclusive rights to a couple herbal cigarette brands. So these are brands that had, 100% herbs, no tobacco, but consumers liked them for the fact that they were nicotine free.
And then you kind of jumped a bit there where, okay, so you're selling these UK based kind of herbal cigarettes that have no tobacco in them. You're realizing that customers don't really like the taste or the aroma compared to what they're used to. And so your next step is contacting universities to genetically modify tobacco plants? Like,
Yeah.
what gave you the mad scientist idea to do that? Because it's genius.
Well, that was pretty much in the dawn of the plant biotech days with Monsanto and that, and it was a lot of it was luck. I happened to contact a few people in the industry, and they were saying that Mark Conklin at North Carolina State was actually working on this. So I contacted him, and we got exclusive rights not only to the technology, but to all the tobacco that was created from that. He essentially turned down a gene, a nicotine biosynthesis gene. At that time, there were only two known, and one of them didn't work. And the other one was the one that he cloned and patented. So that pretty much started the journey to where we are today.
And a lot of times on my podcast, I'm talking to people in your position who come from like a biology background, and then they have to learn the business side of things. But you already had your MBA at this moment. And so where did you start learning about like plant chemistry and like the idea of even to research a scientist who's working on genetically modifying tobacco? Like what gave you the confidence that you're like, okay, I know this is crazy high tech cutting edge science, but I think I can hold my own enough to come up with a great product?
Yeah, well, Mark Conklin at the time that he was at North Carolina State, he actually taught me a lot about plant genetics and that. And, even people that were very versed in the field, this was 1998 approximately. So it was, like I said, it was at the beginning of plant biotechnology. So pretty much everybody was learning at that time. But North Carolina State and Mark Conklin taught me a lot about genetic modification of plants.
So we'll fast forward a bit. You leave 22nd Century Group, which was the company we were speaking of previously, and go on to found Cabbacis. What made you want to have at the same problem again? What did you think you kind of maybe took too long or screwed up on the first time that made you think the second time you're going to knock it out of the park? And kind of what made you still excited about this problem after all these years?
Well, the thing with low nicotine cigarettes, and when I say low nicotine, I'm talking about cigarettes that contain about 5%, so a 95% reduction from conventional cigarettes. And like I said, at that time, we only had a burley tobacco that was 95% reduced. And with with cigarettes that have that much less nicotine, there's no what they call either throat grab or throat impact. So when you inhale, you feel it in your throat. So although the taste is similar, it doesn't really have the smoking experience that most smokers are used to. And without the nicotine, low nicotine cigarettes, they're pretty bland. So in 2018, the Farm Bill passed, making hemp legal. So the idea came to me to add, a small portion of hemp to the low nicotine cigarettes. And that really improved the taste for most smokers. In our recent studies, really 2-to-1 people like the cigarettes blended with hemp, the low nicotine cigarettes blended with hemp versus the ones without hemp. So it dramatically improved the taste and really gave the smoke more character than just a low nicotine cigarette without hemp.
And so what would you say that like main customer of yours is? Is it someone who's trying to quit? Is it someone who's just trying to cut back and kind of mix one in between cigarettes just so they don't smoke so much? What's kind of like the ideal customer for you all, and how do people kind of like first find you and then go, yeah, this is the one for me?
Yeah, so there's been dozens of research, peer-reviewed studies done on low nicotine cigarettes. They got 95% less nicotine. And what they all find is that when people switch to these products, they smoke less, they reduce their nicotine dependence, and it makes them easier to quit if they so choose to. So, adding the hemp into that product really made it more acceptable to smokers in terms of not only the taste but the aroma. The aroma is very interesting. That our iBlend, most people will say that it doesn't smell like tobacco, and it doesn't smell like if it was 100% hemp cigarette. It's really in between, where it gives a very nice aroma, and like I said, increases the taste attributes of a low nicotine cigarette without hemp.
So tell me about all your different patents. I think I saw you have over 32 patents currently under the business, and maybe more.
Yeah,
now,
a couple
worldwide.
just issued. So yeah, we have 35 now. So the patents, virtually 95% of them cover cigarettes and vaporizer pods containing virtually any percentage blend of low nicotine tobacco and hemp. And some of them also cover regular nicotine tobacco and hemp for the vaporizer pods. So it's really the blending of low nicotine tobacco and hemp that's makes up our patent portfolio for both cigarettes and heat not burn products, also known as vaporizers. Philip Morris International has been selling IQOS worldwide, IQOS. And what that product does, it heats the tobacco and doesn't burn it. So without the combustion, it's actually a safer product than combusting tobacco. So there's no tar involved. And that Philip Morris International is their brand is IQOS, which they're going to launch nationally in the very soon in the United States. They've been selling it in international markets like Japan and that, where they obtained like a 30% market share, that taken away from cigarettes. So our patents cover cigarettes and these vaporizer pods for use with heat not burn products.
Yeah, kind of talk more about the international side of your business. How do you balance the kind of international side and how to plan market demand and kind of demographics from the point of view of America has gone from mostly cigarette smokers to now mostly like vaporizers. But in Europe, I see everyone still smokes cigarettes. In Southeast Asia, a lot of cigarettes too. How do you kind of balance like where to spend your time and how to get your product in customers' hands in different countries, depending on kind of what the demographics want?
Well, there's still 28 million smokers in the U.S., and it's still the most consumed tobacco product, not only in the U.S., but in virtually every country. But the trend is going towards, these heat not burn products and cigarettes. So, but cigarettes are still the best-selling tobacco product in really every country in the world.
And so you just got to focus on that for now. And do you have much international distribution, or does each government have their own regulatory body and it's not worth it until you've gotten the U.S. market figured out? Or how do you feel about international expansion?
Well, the U.S. market actually has the most stringent rules as far as introducing a new product. So tobacco is now regulated by the FDA. So to introduce new products, you have to submit data and file what's called a pre-market tobacco application, which we're planning on filing around the end of this year for our products. In most other countries, really you could introduce tobacco products in a much easier fashion than in the U.S. But the good news is in the U.S., the FDA has a mechanism where you could file, it's called a modified risk tobacco product application. It's essentially a safer cigarette product application. So although the regulatory burden is higher in the U.S., there is this mechanism where if you show the FDA that your product is beneficial for public health, they will give you a modified risk claim. And some products have already achieved a modified risk status. But initially, we're going to file a pre-market tobacco application in the U.S. And then in parallel, while we're waiting for the FDA process, we plan on introducing the product, and we're targeting initially English-speaking countries outside the U.S. Is what we're going to target as we put the products for the U.S. market through the FDA.
And do you envision it just being merchandised just like right next to cigarettes and gas stations and tobacco stores?
Yes, the cigarettes will be, and they're all, as I'm sure you've seen them, gathered together with cigarettes and the various other tobacco products. As far as internationally, like previous companies, we've sold products in Japan and Canada, for example. We do have some experience in markets outside the U.S.
I'll edit this since it's out of order, but I do want to go back to your patents real quick. So with the patents that you all have filed so far, is there any intention to license out those to Big Tobacco and allow them to have certain markets that you have patent while you focus on other markets where you go direct consumer? Or are they all the patents part of things that you want to launch someday in your product pipeline? You just aren't going to launch it in the next, say, 2 quarters.
Yeah, the current plan is to develop and commercialize the products internally in the U.S. and then in foreign markets, we'd be much more open to licensing Big Tobacco or even the smaller tobacco companies. But in the U.S., we plan on developing and commercializing internally. I've previously licensed to 2 big tobacco companies in my previous company, Vector Tobacco and British American Tobacco.
So as we wrap up here with your first business and your business now, what's the biggest lesson now in retrospect that you've learned from the first business that you made sure not to make the mistake twice? And then what's something you didn't learn your mistake? You did it twice and you're like, what the heck? I guess that doesn't work.
Well, I've been in the tobacco industry for 30 years, so I'm pretty used to the regulatory environment. And a simple way to overcome the commercialization and regulatory rules are, just to just follow the rules and, keep expenses low while focusing on development and, meticulously follow all the regulations that are, currently in place and new ones that may come down the line. For example, FDA did a press release January of this year where they plan to put a nicotine cap on all commercial cigarettes in the U.S. So if that happens, that would be a great catalyst for our company because we would have the only cigarette in the U.S., low nicotine cigarette in the U.S. blended with hemp. So that would be a very exciting catalyst. We're not counting on that, but if that does happen, that would make our products quite relevant and differentiated over all the other low nicotine cigarettes that would be on the market at that time.
100%. Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of regulations and different tailwinds that you have that could really be different types of catalysts for you because, yeah, basically everyone knows it's a problem and everyone wants to steer towards some sort of solution that you have. And so, no, it's a very, very exciting, cool place to be in.
And a lesson I learned with the other companies
Yep.
is to keep expenses as low as possible while focusing on development. For example, our management team currently takes no salary. We're compensated strictly with equity. Keep the burn rate as low as possible. Last year, we burned through less than $500,000 in cash. So I'm following those rules, obviously, for with Cabbacis.
No, that's super impressive. So if people want to learn more about Cabbacis, what you're working on, where should I send my audience?
Cabbacis.com. It's CABBACIS.com.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, Joseph, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And for those of you still listening, please remember to subscribe and review.
Thank you very much for your time.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or any offer to buy or sell any securities or to make any investment. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement therefore by NanoCap Podcast or its affiliates. The NanoCap Podcast Express disclaims all liability for any individual's use of the information presented in this podcast.